Welcome to the safety portion of the Home Health Aid Skills Fair 2023. To start off, we'll talk about the environmental changes. Going into homes, sometimes the hazards are right there in front of us. Sometimes they happen over a period of time. Some of these changes may be the railings. Over a period of time, sometimes these heavily used railings become loose. And if this happens, you want to let the client know, you want to let other home health aides know. Pretty much you want to let anybody who's going into that home know, including managers. Same with flooring. Like carpet sometimes gets bunched up, becoming a trip hazard. You want to pay attention to these hazards. They're sometimes harder to fix and a little bit more expensive to the client. So, first time in the home and you're seeing this, don't become used to it or complacent to these hazards. Always be aware of your flooring. Same with tiles, with grout. Over time, the grout will get loosened up, tiles get loose. So not only a wet tile becomes a slippery surface, now you have a loose tile becomes a trip hazard plus a slippery surface. Concrete sidewalks, over time will get sometimes heaved up, becoming uneven, and they break up. So that's a tripping hazard walking to your client's home. Decks also, with the wood surface untreated, brand new is slippery, especially when wet with rain, snow, or ice. Over a period of time, being untreated, wood decks will become getting mold on them. So it's now a slippery surface times 10. So you always got to be careful when you're walking on these wood decks. Walk slow, walk careful. Doors, sometimes our doors that we're going into these homes don't close all the way, don't lock. The door jambs get rotten. So you want to make sure that you're secure, when you're going into these homes, that the doors, they close all the way. And if you have to lock them, they do lock for security reasons. Infestations, bugs, rodents. If you're seeing an infestation of whatever it may be, you want to let your managers, on-call nurse, schedulers, other home health aides that may go into this home, you want to make sure everybody knows. First, we may have to pull you from that client to have, a cleaning done, or we might have to pull totally from that client. So, all things of the environmental changes, you want to be aware of and not become complacent to. Our next portion of the safety outline is hoarding. Hoarding is not a way of life. This is an actual disease. So when we're in these homes, the main purpose of safety here is to make sure our pathways and our exits are clear. And this may change every day. You go in the home and you have to say to your client, listen, we got to make sure these pathways are clear of trip hazards, because if there's a fire, if there's a wait or a reason why we have to leave quickly, we can't be tripping over any hazards. So that's key in these homes, and some of these rooms to be having a clear exit or entrance is your kitchens, your bathrooms, your bedrooms. And if there's more than one, which there should be more than one exit, those should be all cleared. With the hoarders, you gotta make sure that they have a fire plan or some kind of evacuation, idea of what they're gonna do in the event they have to leave. And when they do, you gotta make sure that those exits are clear. In their escape plan, you need to make sure they know where to meet. Outside of the home, away from the driveway, maybe across the street, in the front of the house is typically the best place to meet, due to when the fire department comes, that's where they're gonna pull up in front of the house. They won't be behind the house or the side of the house. So you can explain, you're out, everyone's safe, and the firemen can take their time extinguishing the home. If you're out somewhere else, not near the home, not near where you can explain your safety, the firemen will then take more risks of getting into that home and extinguishing the fire. Also, who to call. So you're outside the home, you're safe. Make sure your client has knows who to call and the number. If no one has phones, that's okay. You can, once everybody's on scene, first responders, then you can start making those calls. But even yourself, make the call to your manager, your spouse, your significant other, and let them know you're okay. It's a good idea for anybody who's a hoarder to have a smoke detector, especially in a hoarder's home. There's fire hazards all throughout that home. It's cardboard boxes, it's papers, newspapers, whatever else they may be wanting to hold on to. It's a very good idea to mention smoke detectors or even fire extinguishers. If they do have smoke detectors, it's a good idea to make sure that they're clean and that if they're beeping, they have a fresh battery. Our next segment is equipment changes, and this equipment, is your Hoyer lifts, your slings, commodes, shower chairs. Starting with the Hoyer lifts, this equipment sometimes coming into the home may be a little rough. I'm sure that the vendor is not giving you faulty equipment right out the bat, but it is possible. So when you're getting this equipment, make sure that vendor goes through all the the working conditions of the piece of equipment. And then after a period of time, things may become loose, nuts and bolts. Lubrication may be a little less. So your shocks are not going up all the way for bringing the Hoyer lift up. So all that said, equipment does need to be maintained. Slings, same thing. Over a period of time, slings stretch. They sometimes tear. The webbing becomes loose. So these are things that you want to inspect every time you're using them to make sure that they're working properly. And it's safe for you and the client. Commodes, you want to make sure that the seats are safe. It's not broken, they're not cracked. The legs are sturdy. Same thing there, that they're not bent, tweaked, or nuts or bolts are becoming loose. You want to make sure those chairs are sturdy. Wheelchairs, sometimes there's tears in the seat. You want to make sure that the seat is comfortable and able to be used without cutting your client or hurting your client. The wheels also may become tangled up in hair, harder to push, so that when you're moving your client, you're using more force than you should, which becomes then a problem with you. You might pull your back, leg muscle. So wheelchairs should move fairly easy, depending on your client. But and the surface that you're using or rolling it on. Our next segment is needle safety. With going into homes, and that your client has needles for whatever reason, insulin or whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you're having that talk with them about where they're testing and is where they have their sharps container. It's a good idea to have that container where they're testing so that when they're done testing or using the needles, it goes in that sharps container. If it's not, if they're in the kitchen or they're in the living room, a good chance that needle or lancet will be on a coffee table, end table, kitchen table, underneath debris. So if you could have that talk, just to make sure, clarify that wherever they're testing, they put that used needle in a sharps container. And even if they're doing everything right, you still want to use caution when cleaning in these homes, because the chances of getting a needle stick is a lot greater. And especially underneath debris, when you go to grab that stuff when you're cleaning, and you use your whole hand and fingers to grab and clench, that's where we get our needle sticks. you'll feel a prick in one of your fingers, and you look, and then you got a lancet or a needle in your hand. So use extreme caution when cleaning in these homes, and then with every home that you're into, just a little bit more in these homes. And the reasons for this is because of the the bloodborne pathogens, and what that is your hepatitis A, B, C, D, and then it goes to E. Also HIV and AIDS. So we have a protocol with needle sticks because of the bloodborne pathogens, and that's a whole procedure that we have to do, and so having that talk and being upfront with your client. This is not something that you want, and it's not something that the client wants, because it will go into their background also. Pets. So we've done pretty good with the pets, with particular dogs. We just want to do a little bit better. Our dog bites are low, but when we do have them, the injuries are pretty severe. So, there's ways of preventing this. And when we go into these homes and we know that there's pets, we just gotta make sure the client know that it is their responsibility that the pets go in the room with the door closed. Anything other than that is unacceptable. And that is our standards. That is, Essentia Health's standards, that we will not go into homes if the pets are out. Now, it can be a little bit gray when the client is unable to put that pet away. In those situations, if you feel safe enough to go into the home, then it is your responsibility to make sure you're safe throughout the whole visit, entering and exiting. If you do not, you do not go into that house. Okay, you need to call the on-call nurse and let them know the dog is not able to be put away, and that you do not feel safe going to that home. Let us deal with the client, and making sure that the pet is put away and that it is safe for you to go in that home. If you are in that home and the pet does come out of the room for whatever reason, typically it's another family member letting the dog out. You got to be aware of your surroundings at all times. If the dog is in the room barking, then the door opens up and you hear that dog coming out, good chance, very good chance it's going to come after you. Okay, so you need to get yourself in a safe position and in a position to exit the house quickly. Don't try and fight with the dog with your hands, because they will bite your hands. Put anything you can in front of you, a chair, anything you can to get yourself a barrier between you and that pet till you're outside. Once you're outside, get yourself safe, and then pull over and talk or call the on-call nurse and let them know what's going on. Dog bites hurt. They are painful, and we also have procedures for those because, due to rabies and other infectious diseases with dogs. So you might get, some pullback from your client, that their dog is friendly, has never bit anybody. That does not matter, okay? Don't let them try and talk you into coming in with a dog out. It could be, the friendliest dog in the world. They're not our pets. They're not there for us. They're there for the client and the client's safety. Okay? The more that we stick to this, the safer it is for everyone in the company, because if you're in a home allowing pets to stay out, and that's okay, and then the other person comes in, maybe you're on vacation, another one comes in, and that dog bites, that other person coming in. So, in a standard, it's best to make sure that, the pets are put away. Do everything you can, but if if there is that one instance where you just can't put the pet away, you know, it's on you. It's your call. But I would do everything you can to make sure that pet is in a room with the door closed. Do not attempt to do any exercises or movement with a patient unless you are fully trained and feel that you are capable. Okay? If you are hesitant or are questioning, you know, your capabilities of moving this client for whatever reason, you don't feel it's safe for you, you don't feel you're able to use the equipment, you shouldn't do it. Pull back, you know, make that call to your on-call nurse, explain what's going on, and then, you know, they will either walk you through the steps or they will see if, you know, if we can get you some help. But first thing to avoid injuries is to make sure that you are comfortable in the exercise that you may be doing and that you're properly trained. Okay, if you know, going into a client's home, you know that you know it's getting more difficult for you to do the patient handling, let the on-call nurse know, schedulers know, you know that it's getting harder for you. We may have to substitute you with another person, or make it you know, a dual visit. When you're doing safe patient handling, you want to stay close to the client as much as possible. The closer you are, the better it is for you and your client. The more strength you have in your core is where you want to have you know, the ability to move your client. The farther you're away from your core, the harder it is for you to move. Okay, and the more pressure you're putting on your back. Okay. Try and stay in a neutral position, and by neutral, standing straight up, torso straight, your knees bent. Any awkward movements being bent at the waist and twisting puts more pressure on your back again, and then you'll have more of a tendency to pull or strain a muscle. Also, try not to twist and bend over. By doing that, again, you're putting extreme pressure on your back and spinal cord. It's best to stretch before any of these exercises, just yourself. Any kind of stretching will help, and stay hydrated. Hydrated is key to preventing safe patient handling injuries. And that is all for the safety portion. I thank you all for paying attention, and stay safe. Thank you.